YouTube. How the heck are ya? I'm Taylor. This is my weekly comic book review show for the week of February 17th, 2021. I usually forget that part and have to add it later as a title-y thingy, but I remember to say it this time. So now you know which week it is. And these are the comics that came out this week. Mostly. There are a few that came out last week that I didn't get until this week because Comic Shop had issues. And I don't subscribe to all these books. I just kind of had interest and picked them up, but they were, when I normally do, and blah words, and that was not a real sentence. I apologize. What happened is the Comic Shop was sold out and had to order more for me. So, yeah, that's the short of it. I'm sure it's never happened to you guys, where you're like, oh, I want this book. And then you don't have it on your pull list, you don't do anything like that, and then it's sold out. And you get the FOMO. The comic book FOMO is real. It's a thing. Anyways, enough of that. These are the comics I reviewed this week in order of worst to best, as always. So let's just dive on into it and go from there. Also, if you like the content and you like these reviews, please leave a comment down below. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell thingy so you know when my interview and everything else. And that's not an interview. What am I saying? When my videos go live, hit the notification bell, and you'll get notified. And then you can say, hey, Taylor's got a new video out. I will watch it sometime in the next 3 weeks. So, yeah. Anyways. I'll stop saying anyways. I won't. That's my word of the week that I've been trying to avoid using for the rest of this vid. We'll see how it goes. Champions Outlawed. Number, 4? This is okay. The champions, they're outlaws. They're on the run, and they're still on the run, and they meet some X-Men in this issue. It's not horrible, but I feel like Ewing, the writer, is kind of just dumbing down the content instead of writing for a younger audience, or he's mistaking like a younger audience, like writing for a younger audience with dumbing down the content, and this just kind of feels like a dumbed down story. And I think you could write intelligently for a younger audience and give them some credit, give the readers credit, and I don't think he did that here. And it's not horrible. It's just there's nothing much to it, really. And so that's the kind of the worst book of the week. There's not anything truly awful this week, but this is kind of, the bottom of the stack. So, and then we have Planet of the Symbiotes 2. This is in King in Black tie-in. That is, like most of these King in Black tie-ins that I've read, I'm not reading all of them, but like this one, it's not going to tie into the main story at all. It's just kind of useless. And there's 2 stories in here. They're not horrible. They don't need to exist. And so it feels kind of like a money grab for me. There's the American Kaiju, and then there's maybe a new Prowler who maybe takes on a different identity. So there's a possibility of a first-ish new appearance in here. But I don't think that's probably going to go anywhere either. I've been wrong before. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm wrong all the time about this. But there might be a reason, like folks are considering this a minor spec, and that's because of the backup story. Sure, maybe. But that's not gonna, you just nothing to this. I would bet money that nothing in this Planet of the Symbiotes is gonna have anything to do with wrapping up King in Black. Speaking of Miles Morales Spider-Man, I like this cover. The story, it's tying into King in Black, kind of. But Miles is not part of that main King in Black story, and they're trying to shoehorn in all these Marvel titles and make the storyline kind of fit. This is decent. It's and that's kind of how I feel about the Miles issues I've read thus far. They're all decent, but there's nothing great about this run, and so nothing great about it. All right, here we have probably my favorite cover of the week, and it's Hollow Earth from Vault Comics. I mean, it's hot pink. It's a Scully thingy. It's cool, and the story itself I actually really like. It's a tale of like loneliness and isolation and sci-fi and a little bit of horror elements, tinge of horror, and a bit of a love story. And I think the writing is pretty well done. What I don't like, you might hear me talk about these things in future videos because they're just pet peeves of mine. The lettering doesn't fit. The lettering is just kind of poor font choices, poor word balloons. and that's again, I know people think that's probably nitpicky, but it's a thing. Trust me, it's a thing. Or it's a thing for me, maybe not for you. And the art just doesn't seem to fit. The art is kind of clunky, and like it doesn't, this is like a sleek-ish sci-fi looking cover, and you're expecting a sleek-ish sci-fi looking interior. It's not. It's kind of rough, and the coloring is just. Coloring's not great. It's just it doesn't seem to reflect the real world, which I know is about the stupidest thing you can ever say. But the light and shadows aren't working the way they properly should, and the it feels like almost digital coloring from the '90s, where there's like bright white spots instead of like actual shadows and coloring, and just kind of clunky. But again, the story itself is great. I think this is a one shot. It feels like a one shot. I don't think there's any like the first issue feels like it resolved the entire story. I may be wrong, but I'm probably not going to find out if I'm wrong because I'm not going to pick up any more of this. Because, life's too short and money and all that. American Ronin #5. This is wrapping up volume 1. It's Peter Milligan and I can't remember Akko's first name, but it's an okay wrap up. Again, this is the okay part of the stack. Like, and I know I tend to say okay a lot in these videos, but that's just kind of how a lot of comics tend to be these days. There's not a lot that are exceptional, and there's not a lot that are horrible. There's a lot that fall into this okay range, and this one does. It semi-predictable way of wrapping up this first story arc, and I think it is an arc. I think this one is they actually plans on continuing this, or the desire to continue it, whether or not like the sales are there to like justify it or have another volume. That may be a different story, but it just seems like they're planning on more. Sort of predictable. Really kind of jumbled art and storytelling in here too. Like, and part of that's I think purposeful, or the justification or the reason the art's kind of jumbled and the story's a little bit cloudy is purposeful, but it still does not make it necessarily easy for the reader. And it's also jumbled but not surprising, so it's kind of it's hard to really recommend this. But unless you like the first 4 issues, I really enjoyed. This is the weakest of the bunch, I think. So. All right, Erratic #3. This came out last week, but this is one of the books that I was not able to get last week. This book is getting better. I really didn't like the first 2 a whole lot. It's a teen story. Unlike Champions, I don't think it's writing down to the audience. The art's a little cartoony still for my liking, and it's a little verbose with dialogue and stuff. But the characters are getting fleshed out more, and the story itself has a little bit of interest to it and stuff. It's kind of trying to walk a fine line between exaggeration and cartoon and superhero stuff and feelings and deepness. It doesn't always succeed, but it's not bad. If you're looking for something like gearing towards a younger audience with a younger character, you might want to consider picking this one up. Or you could get Orcs #1. This is just pure D&D-ish sci-fi, like fantasy, like fan service goodness from Kaboom, which is like the younger imprint of Boom Comics. It's Orcs being kind of dastardly and a little bit cruel, but also having each other's back and plotting and misunderstood by Orcs versus elves and playing on a lot of like sort of fantasy tropes in a really fun way. A couple little stories in here. I really like this for what it was. It's just kind of light and fluffy. So middle of the stack, light and fluffy. MODOK Head Games #3. This is 3 of I think 5, and I'm not sure. Maybe it's an ongoing. I don't know. Keeping track of what's limited and what's ongoing and what's. I like the cover. It's got Gwenpool breaking the fourth wall as Gwenpool does, and it's written by Blum and Pat Oswalt. And Pat Oswalt's going to be the voice of MODOK in an upcoming Marvel TV series. It's a stop motion, kind of looks like Robot Chicken. It's funny. It's touching in weird little ways, and it's MODOK goes on a MODOK killing spree in part of it. Not super spoilery. He's a machine only designed for killing, or what it was. I can't remember what MODOK stands for. MODOK machine only design designation of. I don't know. Whatever. Something killing machine only designed. I can't remember what the last 2 letters are, but yeah, it's not bad. It's a fun read. not if you haven't read it thus far, MODOK's got some memory issues and like two sets of memories and trying to figure out what's real. That's not crazy spoilery because what memories are popping up is pretty significant, and so that's where the spoilers would lie. But I'm not going to do that to you. All right, Last Ronin number 3. This is a wavy as heck copy, which I'm a little salty. I should have grabbed a better copy of this. It's the Last Ronin. Runs into the last some old friends in this. Again, not super spoilery, and you sort of learn why the turtle is the last of the turtles, and like what a little bit of what led up to the future state thing. It's more of a flashbacky kind of stepping back a bit from the action of the first issue. It's decent. Art's okay. Story's also fine. I'm interested to see where it goes. I'll obviously pick up the next couple. I think it's a 4-issue series. Again, I don't know. I'm paying attention to how many issues each thing is just it's beyond my. But yeah, it's not bad. I don't understand. The art is not intricate enough or detailed enough to really justify this weird format, and that's one of my things with this. It's like it could just have been a standard size book. And I wish it was, because it'd just be easier to bag and board and blah. And if you haven't noticed, I sometimes have trouble with bagging and boarding. Watch my video this week live where I wrecked a $600 comic. But you also learned a little bit about how to what comics I'm sending for grading. So if you go back a couple of videos, and yeah. King of Black number 4. This is fun. It's a fun. The main King of Black miniseries is pretty fun and pretty decent, and like probably will have some ramifications for the Marvel universe and like changing of the guard with characters and that kind of thing. And it definitely does set up a little bit of that. I'm not sure it's going to be a permanent change. Again, I don't want to give a whole lot of spoilers to this, and it is a pretty spoilerific issue. So pick this one up. The art's great. Stegman's still doing a great job, and this cover I just liked better, so I got it. And it's definitely you can see the wrapping up of the story is going to come down to probably a final confrontation next week, whenever the next issue comes out, and this sets it up pretty nicely. Barbarian Red Planet number 4. I believe this is also of 5. Maybe not. Maybe again, maybe that should be the theme of the week. Is like I just don't know how many issues are in each of these series. This is the World of Black Hammer. It's written by Lemire and Tate Bromball. It's Barbarian, who's basically the Martian Manhunter. If you were a gay Martian living as a gay human in San Francisco during the AIDS crisis, and it's touching in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of anger into the writing and a lot of anger in this book. And it's like you feel it, and you feel it's palpable at times. And like it's frustrating, like the character of Barbarian is sometimes frustrating, and written in a frustrating way. But that frustration, I think, is just it's necessary, and I think it propels you can feel the character evolving, and not just because the character's a changeling, but there's that. But you can just feel the character evolving, as part due to the interactions with humans and his own feelings and everything else, and it's worth picking up if you're if you want a story that's like more than just like your lighthearted comic superhero romp. It's not that, but if you want a little bit of deeper story under the guise of a superhero story, I'd say get this and give it a whirl. On the sort of other end of the spectrum, but it is a fun superhero romp, is Thor, Prey, Part 4. This features Throg, the Frog of Thunder, and the bulldog with the wishbone. What's that? The camera. Lockjaw, the Inhumans teleportation dog. What a weird ass character from the Pet Avengers. It's Throg. Throg's in this. Donald Blake is running around amok, being a douche, and characters are trying to stop him. And again, I don't want to get super spoilery, but this is a fun issue. But at the end, you're like, okay. You kind of saw where it was heading. Or at least if you've been paying attention to this arc at all, you kind of had an idea of what was gonna, be coming up next. I think maybe I'm the only one. Whatever, doesn't matter. Fun story. Nick Klein on the art again, doing a great job, and yeah, it's Thor. It's one of the more fun, consistent books out there. Speaking of which, Stillwater number 6, and look, there's that clever little 6 in the knife handle. Isn't that clever? That's clever. Zdarsky and Ramon Perez. Nobody can die in Stillwater, but you can sure get hurt. And this issue kind of changes up things a bit, where you're like, oh, the town might be bigger than people knew, or there might be more going on than just the first main set of characters you were introduced to. And it turns out other immortal folks in the town have some things going on in their lives as well. And so, yeah, this is Zdarsky's just consistently good lately, and the art, again, it reminds me of Chris Samney stuff, kind of. I think Samney's probably a little bit better, but Ramon Perez is still pretty spot on, and yeah, check it out. Stillwater is, if you've watched any of my past review videos, you notice Stillwater is usually towards the top or the bottom of the stack, which means the top of the list as far as like good comics for the week go, and there's a reason for that. It's just consistently well written, consistent, fun story, or interesting story, not fun. And yeah, all right. Knock 'em Dead number 3 from Aftershock. This this book took a turn this issue, and this actually came out last week. Again, I just couldn't get it, and so I had to wait and read it this week. If you're not caught up on this, I'm going to spoil a little bit of the first issue or two. Basically, the main character dies and then comes back to life with a comedian also sharing his body. And the main character is a bad comedian and failed comedian, and not funny and all that. But like the comedian that comes back with him is kind of funny. And so you think, oh, it's going to be a battle of two people inside one body, and this kind of flips that all around and changes it up a bit, and it promises to move the story in a direction that I definitely did not expect. I think it makes it much more interesting than what I thought was going to be the progress of this tale. So, yeah, Knock 'em Dead number 3. All right, we're getting there. We got 2 left. Bear with me, folks. This is going to be a fairly quick week. Haha, number 2, Creepy Clowns. Not really. This is a story of a mother and daughter in this issue, and it's Maxwell Prince, W. Maxwell Prince, I think, and different artists on each one. It's a limited series, creepy cover. I mean, a great cover, and one of the better books of the week. It's each issue standalone in this, and and it's Prince working with a different artist, like I said, in each issue. There's a mother and daughter in this, and it's not your typical clown story, but it is a clown story. All of the haha issues are going to be based around some kind of clown related tale, and this is it's just kind of a heart wrenching story more than horror, and there's still some like not horror elements, but still some distressing elements to the story. But yeah, it's not a pure horror book like a lot of people are expecting, and like not a pure horror book like the cover kind of makes you think. It's just more of a human drama and human piece in this issue. Really well done. All right, my pick of the week, or my book of the week. I'll stop saying. I know I've said I'll stop saying it. It's just the book I like the best this week. We Live number 5. I think, and this is definitely not the last book. But it's the last book. It wraps up this first arc. Every issue of this has kind of subverted expectations for me. Like, I really didn't expect to like this book as much as I did. It's got a fairly cartoony character style that I thought was a little off-putting at first, and it just didn't seem to... I didn't think it would work for me, but the more I read, the more it fits. And then the story, you're sort of expecting, like, because of that cartoony-ish style, you're like, oh, it's going to be a cutesy little romp through... post-apocalyptic, but world where there's a lot of that in comics right now. But this kind of sets up a little bit of backstory of why the world is post-apocalyptic, kind of, and then it really takes a turn and sets up things in a direction for the future arc or the future of this book that I did not see coming at all. I don't think anybody did. It's kind of up there with the Knock 'em Dead as far as like what the oh, that's surprising. And it's nice to be surprised in comics where a lot of times they kind of tread some well-worn ground, and this is not doing that. This is definitely blazing its own path, and it's a very interesting path. And if you like sci-fi books, you like post-apocalyptic books, and you like kind of unexpected storytelling, I highly recommend this. It is my book of the week, and there you have it, folks. Kind of short week, but I'm okay with that. I needed a light week this week, and as always, don't be a dick. But before I go, I'm gonna shameful plug, shameless plug, shameful, shameless, sinful plug. I have Wisconsinful hoodies up on my site, tailorwinter.com. I'll leave a link in the description down below. If you have any interest, every clothing or apparel or art or whatever purchase from the site just goes to help me buy comic books so I can do reviews and that kind of stuff and keep this channel going. It all kind of gets funneled back in. So if you like what I'm doing and you have the means and you like this product and you want to wear it, please help me out. It'd be fantastic. If not, it's all good. I get most people are not from Wisconsin. Most people don't care about Wisconsin. And yeah, this is a niche hoodie, but I kind of make the hoodies I want to wear myself, and if anyone else wants to buy them, then so be it. And that's kind of what this one is. So, all right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And yes, like I said before, don't be a dick.